Hello, I'm Christy Maxwell, and I'm a doctoral student in the English department. I'm interviewing Lisa Hogeland, an associate professor in the English and Comparative Literature department, and who has a joint appointment also in the Women, Gender, and Sexuality department. This is Lisa Hogeland.
Hello. Great.
So we're talking about the big anthology projects, the 2-volume anthologies of women writers. How did you get involved in the anthology project?
Sure. What happened is that Lute Books, an independent feminist nonprofit press in San Francisco, approached me and said, hey, how would you like to put together a team of scholars to do what we thought was going to be a single volume textbook for American women writers, for women writers of the United States? And I said, sure. But then as we assembled our team and started to refine our principles and what we thought we were doing, the project exploded and became the almost 3,000 pages that you see in front of you. It did change a bit over the course of our thinking about it, particularly when we decided that we wanted to have not only a textbook, but also we wanted this project to make a significant contribution to what we call the Feminist Recovery Project, that now 40-year project of bringing back lost, neglected, underread, underappreciated women writers into print. And so once we put together those two purposes, the project was bound to become larger than we thought.
So among the decisions you and your co-editor made was to include no novel excerpts. Do you want to talk a little about that decision?
I'm really happy about that decision. That's a decision that wears well for me over time, especially using, as I have the volume 1 several times. Most women writer anthologies represent women novelists by a chapter of one of their books. So Toni Morrison is routinely represented by that one of the chapters from The Bluest Eye. And A, I don't like novel excerpts pedagogically. I don't think they work very well in the classroom. And B, The Bluest Eye is a widely available, relatively inexpensive paperback book. You could have your students buy it and teach the whole thing, which seems to make much more sense to me. And as the project expanded and we became sort of more and more desperate for real estate, right? We had to cut 600 pages out of volume 1 just to get it down under 1,400 pages. Right? Our decision not to include chapters of novels that are widely available started to look pretty good. We do have representations of women novelists, but not in excerpts from their novels.
Of the 600 pages you ended up cutting, the amazing thing was that you lost no writers doing that.
That's why it was so difficult. We were really terribly unwilling to lose a writer. So what we ended up doing was cutting multiple stories. We had a much richer representation of Louisa May Alcott, whom we all adore. And so instead of having made an early decision about which story, we had, I think, 4 stories. So we cut them back to 2. We had a lot more Catherine Beecher, who still has a pretty sizable representation. So we ended up cutting as much duplication, right, as many pieces by authors rather than cutting authors. So we lost a wonderful essay by Voltairine de Cleyre called Sex Slavery, which I really wanted, but we decided instead to keep the 2 poems.
One of the points of pride in the second anthology is how many women of color are represented. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Of the 241, I think, women writers in volume 2, though I think we might have cut or added one since I last counted, slightly more than half are women writers of color.
Right.
And that is, I think, a really unprecedented representation of American writers, American women writers in particular. We have writers from every tradition. We did not delimit this text must be written in English, for instance, so that we have a much different representation of women from the Caribbean and from Latin America and from Mexico and other Latinas. We have a story that was translated from the Yiddish, right? And it gave us, and because we play a little fast and loose with American, right, or with U.S., I should say, in volume 2 as well as we did in volume 1, we have a much greater range, I think, than a lot of other anthologies.
Have you had the opportunity to use the anthologies in a course yet?
I have used volume 1, and I'm teaching it indeed this quarter. This will be the 4th time that I've used it. Volume 2, which just came out in June, I haven't had a chance to use yet, but I'm going to in the spring quarter. I'm very excited about it, I have to say.